And we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the NRG series here live at Madison. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as Will Hall XP. And I'm joined by one of my favorite people in Magic the Gathering. You might know him from Mining Modern. It is, of course, Corbin Hostler. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well this morning, Will. Excited to be on here with you for the tournament this morning. Doing great. Of course, we're going to be watching some
I'm
of
never
my favorite Magic players and some of my favorite Magic formats. So it's going to
I'm
be
never going to get used to everybody saying morning. I'm like, it's three in the afternoon. What are you talking about? It's not in the morning. It's crazy. But that's because we are obviously live in America right now. 8 rounds of modern action coming to you all today. So strap in, sit down, get ready for an amazing show. But let's kick off what's happening today. What are we going to be seeing throughout this weekend of live broadcast Magic? Well, today we've got the 5K Modern. Tomorrow we've got the 10K Team Trio. So if you're a fan of Standard, Modern, or even Legacy, well, tomorrow's a show for you, I promise. We've got a lot of prizes on the line. We've got a lot of players in the room, but we've got players sat down ready to go in their feature match. So we're just going to go straight down to it, and then we'll inform you as we go along. So let's get down to the match.
Yeah, we're going to pop straight in to Modern, what everyone loves to see, right? That's what you want when you tune into a Magic stream. You want to see Magic, and here we go. Look at that immediately off to the races. Aintrazi on your left.
Yeah, I like Joseph. So me have like become like mates over the last year or so. We met at actually where I last saw you last over at MagicCon, where I vaguely remember leaving you in a bar of some description. It was a lot of fun that weekend. But yeah, I was hanging out with Ali quite a lot, and it was playing this deck at that tournament as well. And up against Flynn here. Flynn, same sort of sketch. Both players are going to use one of the new cards now for Modern Horizons 3. Give me a quick reminder of what that one is. It's the Destiny, isn't it? The Devour of Destiny. So the Devour of Destiny says you may reveal it from your opening hand. If you do at the beginning of your first upkeep, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may pick one of those cards back on top of your deck. The rest go into exile, which you think, okay, I'm going to lose 3 cards, but there's some other cards in the deck that later on that can be an advantage using. Also has 7 mana, enters the battlefield, exile target permanent, 6/6 body. So a little bit of extra text to go along with it. How key are them in these decks?
Yeah, and that's one of the other cards you mentioned. It's leading into there is the Labyrinth, which of course can add mana, but can sometimes add additional mana, and that's kind of the backbone of these Eldrazi Tron decks and the engines they produce. And of course, on the other side, Ali on Colorless Tron is not too different, maybe just with slightly less of a Eldrazi vibe to it here, but. This looks like a pretty decent of both players with 2 very powerful lands pretty early on. Look at that. And not a color to be found.
No, we don't need them in this matchup. This is all going to be about who can get the biggest mana the quickest. And at the minute, Flynn on the draw, still up to 4 mana on turn 2. So let's have a look what we could follow this up with. This looks a bit more like the prison version that we've become apparent to now. So we've got options like we could just play a 1 ring on turn 2. Pretty good. Trinisphere. Here's the 1 ring coming down. Oh, nice art as well. This is one of the storybook art ones. I'm pretty like these quite a lot, but trying not to use it straight away. There's no rush to use it as we pass the turn to Ali, who, of course, has the turn 3 Tron and his own 1 ring. This game's going to be going for a while.
Yeah, choose your warrior here, both in the game, in the tournament, in the art. You got the showcase scroll there. You got the whatever, the borderless or the 1 art on the other side. But you said it. Both players settling in here. Flynn drawing cards on taps. Going to start drawing more cards. I mean, the thing is too, before there's any sideboards involved here, of course, both players are just going to try to go as big as possible, as fast as possible, and it's going to be about who can lock out the other one. And I think I spotted in hand there. A Karn. Yep. Looks like Flynn sitting on Karn. Now, that, of course, is going to be one of the biggest breakers in the matchup. But Ollie, of course, not being on just the Eldrazi version, is going to have access to some different stuff of his own and will have access to plenty of cards due to his own, the 1 ring. Here we go. 2 additional cards for Flynn. Hits land expedition map. And now I guess you decide just how best to spend your mana, because each of you is going to get, I guess in Ollie's case at this point, it's a lot more, but you're going to get, the 10 or so mana you're going to get to spend over these first few turns, and what you do with that is what is going to decide the game. So not a ton of necessarily game actions to happen over these first couple turns, and compared to some of the other decks you might see in Modern doing that. But the end result is extremely important, and we see Flynn opt to go with the Karn here.
I'm having a look at what are some of the big hitters that they can cast. We're talking about mana and how they can how this can be used. Obviously, Khan going to go find a Haywire Might here that can get rid of the ring on the other side if we can produce green mana at some point. But going back to Ali, who by the way doesn't look like Ali was on the play here, but does have obviously Tron going. Can't activate that one ring, not in the face of the Khan. But look at some of the big hitters. We've got some Ulamogs floating around. We've got some Emrakul the Promise Ends floating around over here on Ali's side. 2 Emrakuls. Also, what is this? A Forsaken Monument. Haven't seen that since I don't know, Draft All-Star back in the day, maybe, but that seems like it could be pretty cool in these Tron matchups. Anything else big mana? I suppose we have to talk about the Kozilek's commands and how this card in itself is basically single-handedly pushed these decks to having an instant speed, bit of interaction, a bit of ramp, a bit of card filtering, and if needs be, against some matchups, can also exile a bunch of cards from graveyards. So, okay, they're flipped. Let's go back. Flynn has got natural Tron. Ali has got the 5 mana on the battlefield and the ring. Got you. Right, we're working there. So now over on Flynn's side, Flynn's the one that's got
okay, understood. Yes, we are
we've got it working now. It's all good.
Okay, here we go.
So who'd say is advantaged here as a monument is found? That means all spells are going to cost an extra 2, and at the end of every turn, 1 life point will be drained from Flynn. The only thing about this is an extra 2 mana going to make much of a difference in this matchup right now?
Well, yeah, the first one certainly it's going to get this big. You nailed it. That the command is going to go big here, and the tax is not necessarily going to stop that. So it is a nice card. It's a nice piece. It slows people down. The tax maybe not the biggest thing at the end step, but the mana tax on this card is huge, right? So look, it's a nice play, but Flynn with that command is able to just really load up here and is going to have some options if he's able to untap with this. And here we go. Lots of mana.
I haven't looked at what's in the sideboard that could have been found. Like we had the option that turn. We could have got a Stone Brain and activated it in that turn. I feel like that would be a really good key piece in this. I'm going to call it a mirror. It's not a full 75 mirror, but it's pretty close. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would be a really good card for it. But how much mana is being spent here? And is this for an Ulamog? That's a good one to play. I told you this is going to be one of the big hitters in this matchup. Cash trigger. We can exile 2 permanents. And then we'll just count and make sure we've got enough land there. Because we've got to pay the extra 2, remember?
Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to how many of these Eldrazi tokens are you going to lose? Because you have the mana to pay. Let's just make sure we count it up right. And then we'll go from there. Because so I would not say that is necessarily the end of things here.
Well, if we take out these 2 lands over on Ali's side, the 2 labyrinths, that's 4 cards we actually get. Because the cards underneath it don't go back into our hand or anything like that, right?
That's right. Yeah, and it basically puts it to Ollie to have sort of like an immediate answer. Which, hey, look, you're drawing a ton of cards with the 1 ring. I don't want to put it past him to find something here. Oh. But, of course, it is obviously a challenge when you are the one getting Ulamogged first. We talked about who could spend the most mana the most efficiently. And while Ollie's slamming that statue, hey, pretty strong. It's nice, but not quite as much as that Ulamog is, even through the tax there. So, all right, what does Ollie need to do here? You need to find an exile effect. I would say
it's his own Ulamog or it's a Karn Liberated. There's 1 copy of each in his deck, and needs them now. I'm quite surprised we didn't go after the mana there. Like I feel like we were winning the board state no matter what anyway. But maybe we want access to our ring again. Ali's going to go play a map, crack this map, still have 1 mana floating. I guess we go find the extra Tron piece that we're missing, which is Power Plant.
Yeah, step 1 in Tron does, usually just find your Tron piece and go from there and whatever else that means. So in this case, it doesn't necessarily produce a lot of mana in the sense it normally would, but it at least allows you to keep going. You play your land here, and now we sort of get back to the original question after treading that water of how to answer Ulamog.
He's got the One of Calm Liberated in hand, so he's able to cast it. That is the answer to the Ulamog. That is one of the two we've got in the deck for it to happen.
Huge.
That is a huge find, especially as we're going to probably potentially lose 20 of our cards to exile next turn if we were able to turn that sideways. But Ali's in the tank. Ali is one of a really good players in the room, because there are a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen, which we will be seeing throughout today's broadcast. But Ali, it's in his name. Ali Eldrazi's got to play Eldrazi, right?
Well, and I think he's trying to figure out here, is there any way where I don't have to take that? Could we maybe hit the ring so you don't get to draw cards and then we'll get it next turn? Safely opts to just take Ulamog out of here. Does pass back, though. And this is sort of the problem, though, of getting put on the back foot, is all he did there. Flynn still has the one ring, still draws a ton of cards, still has all of the mana available. And as you can see, just a massive grip. You just got to decide what to do with it. So if you're Ollie, you're really in need of fading, another payoff here, so that you can try to untap and spend your own mana. And that's going to be the challenge, because here we go. Flynn is counting them out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We've actually got 20 mana this turn, including those Eldrazi spawns. We've got 20 mana this turn that we can spend. Remember, every spell is taxed by 2 if that becomes relevant at all. If somehow you can slow down someone that's got access to 20 mana, as again, I think this is a draft card, but here we are. We're seeing it cast in Modern. It is Breaker of Creation, so this is an 8 mana, going to cost us 10 for an 8/4. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 1 life for each colorless opponent you control, has hexproof from each color, and has Annihilator 2. So we're seeing a lot of Annihilate effects coming back in with the last MH3 set.
Yeah, and what a interesting inclusion in the deck, right? And also just like what an interesting design card. 8/4 on an 8-drop is certainly, an allowable set of stats, I guess, but it's not very common. Now, hexproof from each color, not doing you a lot of work in this matchup. However, the life gain can help you in some matchups where, look, you kind of get pinged, obviously, from your opponent's decks, but the one ring can kind of wear on you over time. Just having a little bit of that incidental life gain on a creature that happens to have Annihilator is, I guess, not the worst here. And, it's a one of in the deck. It allows you just a piece to in the right situations. And in this case, which is a scenario where it's maybe certainly, I wouldn't say not at its best or even close to it, it's not the end of the world. What Flynn needed was a payoff. And what Flynn got was a payoff. And that payoff wasn't as good as Ulamog. But on the other hand, it is a body to attack with. It is a threat that Ollie will have to answer, as he opts to use the Karn on
Urza's Tower.
The negative, to take out the Urza's Tower there from Flynn. So, Ollie doing everything he can to climb back in this. And I guess if you're Ollie, you're not unhappy with how things turned out. It could have been a lot worse when your opponent had actual 20 mana to spend, and all you're scaring down is an 8/4.
That Annihilator 2 is going to be a problem for him. Obviously, now we've just used a couple of opponents on the battlefield to get rid of some on the other side. One of them knocking Flynn off Tron, but there's so many cards been drawn. You've got to imagine there's ways to kind of fix that. All Ali's got going now is a bunch of land and the command. We're going to see Flynn casting a command end a turn here, though. And one thing I learned in one of the recent tournaments I was playing is Annihilator doesn't care about ring protection. If you can attack, if they got ring protection for a turn, you can still attack. Annihilator still happens. The new Ulamog, we've been in like 8 counters on it. Sacking 8 permanents on the board is pretty rough for a lot of decks in the format. We find a Karn. That's going to go on top. We're going to draw that. That's going to turn off potentially that map on the other side at least. And now we've got access to, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana for the turn. Unless we can hit our missing Tron land.
Yeah, and the important thing here is that Karn gives you any payoff you want, right? And it's relatively inexpensive to deploy. And as you said, the Annihilator, it'll happen no matter what you do. And it just says defending player. Ollie's defending player. That triggers on the stack. We're going to respond, though, with a command of his own. I guess this is pretty good. It'll certainly give you lots of fodder to sacrifice for the Annihilator, and I guess for the block if you need it.
Yep, 11 tokens can be generated here. Plus, I'm guessing we're going to look at the top 11 cards of our library. Am I getting that right? It's 2 to cast. It's 9. Yeah, I'm an Intech player. I can't count past 10. So yeah, it's going to be 9. 9 tokens can generate top 9 cards to look at. Now, what can we find over on Ali's side? Let's have a look at this deck list. What's an Ulamog is probably the best hit in the deck at the minute currently. Another Ring can't hurt because that's going to get us more cards deeper in our deck.
Yeah,
We've
I think
used
I
our
saw
one off card.
Yeah, Trinisphere, Chalice in there, Karn.
Emrakul?
Didn't see, so he's not just slamming anything, or at least he's taking a good long look at him here. It's a lot of cards to look at.
Choices are Karn Ring by the looks of it. Yep, okay. Put them both on top. Interested in what order? Are we going to go Ring so we can draw the Karn, or are we going to go the Karn, do something big, and then get protection turn after? Okay. But we are going to block to start off with the Scion. That means we're going to go down to 8 tokens.
You're going to keep that one, Flynn. Okay, so Ollie's trying to set up a big turn here to untap. Like, this is interesting. Both players have set up these turns with the commands to try to untap with large amounts of mana to spend them. And Flynn had the best payoff early, but this payoff, it's not nothing, but it is possibly allowed Ollie to get back into it. Flynn's going to need another follow-up here now. Should be able to come up with something. His deck is, sitting in his hand for the most part. And here we go with Karn to open up all of the options. Really, I think only gated by what mana he has available here, right?
What's that card that got put underneath the labyrinth? I'm trying to work out what it is. Is that like a All Is Dust, like an alternate art one, maybe?
Probably.
Chat will let us know. Chat knows everything to do with Magic. Even when they're wrong, they're always right. But this is a cool interaction, right? The one ring has been exiled. Karn can get things out of exile. So we can get that ring that was exiled back into the grip. And this is why I was talking about Stone Brain, where I feel like that would be a really good card in this matchup because you can just keep exiling everything each turn. It is an All and Dust secret lair. See, chat knows everything. I'm glad that I kind of guessed it outright. My powers of denomination is work out what that card could be from. It's got to be 7 mana, an art I probably haven't seen. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't recognize it, it's safe to assume it's a secret lair these days.
It makes our life even better in the booth. Let's put it that way, chat. We hope you all enjoy us here today. We do have 177 players battling it out in Modern across 8 rounds of action, plus that top 8. And all that is coming to you live today here on the NRG Series Twitch. If you haven't hit the follow button, make sure you do hit that follow button, of course, to be, it's not just today we're going live, we're also coming at you tomorrow with Team Trios. And here's that. I've got to say, to me, every card in Tron is a draft card, but I got to give it more credit. Ali knows what he's doing. This is the Forsaken Monument. So colorless creatures now get +2/+2. Not bad with a bunch of Scions. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless mana, add an additional colorless mana. And whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. There it is on the screen. Production value is great, thanks to Norm working behind the scenes. What do you think about this card?
Look, this is a really fun one. People who are veterans of the arena scene might remember this popping up in the historic decks for a good long while, doing kind of what it's doing here, pumping up the small creatures, just kind of making all your random little rocks and stuff just work a little better. Now, this is kind of the one of the fun of for Ollie. Flynn has their one of with the breaker. So both players kind of getting deep into the Tron tank here, right? We got the godforsaken monument in play. But really what this is Karn, right? These are dueling Karn battles. And interestingly, in this kind of pseudo mirror here where both players have all these Eldrazi spawns, not Scions, which are 1/1s, but spawns, the 0/1s. Look how much work that Forsaken Monument just did. It resulted in an attack that got the Karn off the board, giving Ollie Karn superiority on the board. And now all of those little tokens that were just mana before are huge threats thanks to that Forsaken Monument. This is the exact situation that you play this one of for in the deck.
And it helps us ramp out a little bit more. I like playing that one ring that Ali's just played for the turn as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, that monument basically put 12 power on the battlefield that turn.
Yeah, like, it's huge.
Subconsciously, it just added a bunch to the board. We're going to tap the ring. We're going to go another card deeper.
And you can pull that card out of course, the sideboard. There's another copy there with Karn. So really, you can see this is one of these deck building innovations that only comes deep into a format. Call them the Brad Nelson type innovations to a deck, right? Where you're like, I only need this when it comes down to what my 74th and 75th card in the deck is, right? Most of the time that doesn't matter. 95% of your matches will be decided by sort of the normal cards in your deck in your main game plan, but very, very rarely what your last couple choices are will matter. And you're seeing it right here. Both players having access to their one-ofs and their sideboards with Karn. Now, I think we might be working out.
Did you see what Ali drew for the turn? That's why they're kind of doing a bit of looking at graveyards, counting a bit of mana. Drew Emrakul. Like, that's a good one. If you can take your opponent's turn, it's probably a good way of messing them up. And there it is at the front of the grip. Now, how much does that cost? 13 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can pay 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could cast it this turn, but it costs us all these scions, right?
So there's 4 card types in Ollie's graveyard, right? Plus a land. So there's
5. Does the command count as 2?
Yes, it will. The kindred spell will count as 2, I believe, assuming it works. Like
I believe it does. So there's 2 artifact, creature, planeswalkers. That's 5 types in the graveyard.
Right. So you'd be looking at, I think, 8 mana for that Emrakul, which would then on cast allow Ollie to take Flynn's turn. Now, what you can do with that when you have access to Karn tends to be quite a bit. In some situations, you can also throw away, of course, all their tokens, but really looks like that Forsaken Monument has been the difference here for just got complete control of the board by being able to remove that Karn on a crucial turn. And Flynn needs to come up with something here.
Well,
it's Boseju'd there, down a land.
Yeah, draw step Boseiju to turn off the Tron mana on the other side. So that is really kind of taxing the mana in this matchup. All right, chat, tell me, what basic forest is that? I don't think I've ever seen that basic forest in my life. It's definitely a secret lair, but
it's got to be. They did the like those pixel ones, right?
No. It's definitely not one of them. I use those. I use the pixel basics and snow basics.
Well, that's what it's all. These so many options these days, right? There's you have hundreds of great land arts to choose from at this point. Dozens of full arts.
I love it. Right, Annihilator trigger going on the stack, even though didn't need to block there by Ali, though. I think he forgot it's got ring protection for the turn. So hopefully that doesn't come back to and bite him, losing an extra scion here. But that could be extra mana, could be extra creature if needs be later on. Ring protection for Flynn, and then the follow-up is a card on the other side.
There you go. Yeah, it's kind of funny, actually. We talked about, I talked earlier about it. This might go pretty fast. We play 4 or 5 turns. They're going to be highly impactful. And instead, we've ended up deep in this wild colorless mirror where each players probably spend about 90 mana so far. But Flynn with the ring now, Karn's in both on both boards, so no activations coming. Mm-hmm. But you know what doesn't need to activate? Forsaken Monument. So we'll see.
It's true.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, Ollie down to, I guess, just 1 token after all of that. So,
reverse on what I said. So when I said Ali blocked, chat pointed out the attack was probably happening at the Karn. That's why the token was blocked. That makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
Great player, Derek Davis in chat. Shout out.
So here we go. Karn gonna minus to get is that Cityscape Leveler?
Yes, that's a Cityscape Leveler. So this has got a lot of different things that this one can do. There's just a lot of exile effects floating around this game, and I'm not entirely sure who's winning currently. There's a ring that is a 4/4 on the other side because the card got ticked up, so that is now an indestructible 4/4 to the end of or until the beginning of Flynn's next turn. But here comes the Leveler. We're going to make sure we tap our mana. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana floating. Here it is on the screen for you all. The big 8/8 Trampler itself. I've cast a lot of these in my Pioneer Mono Green deck in the past. But because we get to cast it, we do get to exile a non-land permanent, being that Karn, because Karn's stopping us from using our ring, our map. Straight away tap us our own ring, go 2 more cards deeper. What's the chances that we end up milling each other out here? Like, what is the options? Because it looks pretty stalemate.
I was thinking, what are the options? This God Pharaoh statue just goes the distance. 1 life point,
25 turns. Let's go. Let's go. You play another.
I mean, this was the Cityscape Leveler here was huge for Ollie, but this all goes back to that tourney was able to really even the board, and then pull out from behind, right? Like he was the one behind. He was the one who got the bomb dropped on him. Ulamog was in play on the opposing side, and now look at it. He's got all of his stuff here, and the leveler is going to help finish it off. I think. I mean, this is pretty brutal for
I'm wondering
Flynn.
why Ali's not doing the playing the Emrakul. Like I feel like again we had mana to do it last turn, but decided against it. Obviously got a game plan in his head. Like I think the leveler is going to be the better option in this match. Sacrifice permanence is going to be both of these two maps going to the graveyard. We're going to block that Scion, keep our life total nice and high up to 24. And then the follow-up is going to be a Destiny. Not great in this one. There's not really any permanence for it to hit, so it's just going to be a 6/6. But 6/6s turn sideways, they do add up over time. Let's be honest with you. We've all been beaten to death by Colossal Dreadmaws over the years.
Yeah, Snapcaster Mage beatdowns, all of that. But here we go. We see what Ollie was holding the mana for. It's a massive command, and I think that is enough because it equals lethal, thanks to that Forsaken Monument.
Yeah, that Monument did work in that matchup. That was great. It's good to see. So they're going to go to the sideboards now, have a little look. This is a closed decklist tournament, remember, ladies and gentlemen. Until we get to that top 8, then I'm sure it will go public and you can check it out on all the different socials. But there's a couple of differences in the deck. It's not a full 75. So what do we see after that game 1 then? What are kind of the key cards that these players want to be casting ASAP? Or we'll get it on the screen for you so everybody can have a little look. There you go.
Perfect. Well, obviously, one of these players has more Eldrazi than the other, and that would be the Eldrazi Tron player. Thought-Knot Seers being a big one here, especially, I think, in the sideboarded games, right? Because you look at the Thought-Knot Seers, you can get access to their hands if you have 4 mana on turn 2. That used to be kind of the best thing you could do in Modern at one point, was to have 2 Eldrazi monuments, or Eldrazi temples, rather, and cast your Thought-Knot Seers on turn 2. Now, we've come a long way since then, but that's one of the differences, right? You just see this heavier Eldrazi focus, the Breaker of Creation as well, even a World Breaker in there. That's what some of that green mana can be used for, you see, with the Avamaya. So with this, you really lean on some of that intermediate game, right? You don't necessarily just go as big, whereas on the other side, you're looking at the Trinisphere, the Chalice of the Voids, like
all the prisons
way different. A way different game plan, despite so many of the cards being the same, is that you instead want those plays instead of, I'll take 1 card from your hand. Well, how about you can have all the cards in your hand? I'm just going to make them cast to a point that you can't play them. That's what Trinisphere can do, making everything cast 3. Chalice of the Voids can lock out just giant swaths of Modern at this point, right? 0 mana does things. 1 mana does things. I guess maybe you could probably put it at 2 if you wanted somewhere, but 0 and 1 with Chalice of the Void will get you a long way as well. So yeah, lots of different, really like, I'd say, as you said, prison options, but a slow game kind of from Ollie, whereas kind of a more
I'm trying to take
mid-range creature-based game you can find at least possible out of the Eldrazi Tron.
I'm kind of taken away from this. There's a lot of dead cards in this matchup. They've clearly come this weekend with a deck in mind that they want to beat. I'm sure we're all aware of what deck that is that they're all trying to beat, and I'm sure we'll end up seeing it later on. But in this matchup, there's a lot of dead cards. We're playing Khans in our deck. That means, 10, 12, maybe even all 15 cards in our sideboard are sideboard cards. That we don't bring them in for that pure reason. So we're going to be stuck with things like Trinisphere, Chalices. All these are not good in a Tron matchup, but we don't really have any better cards to bring in over them. So we are going to have to leave some number of dead cards. Obviously, we could upgrade them. We could bring a leveler in, but then that one turn you've got a load of mana and you play a card and you want to find your leveler and it's not there. Yeah. It's going to be really awkward for both these players and how we want to move forward. Going up against each other in a mirror round 1, maybe not what they were thinking was going to happen, but that's Modern. That's how the cookie crumbles. I believe both players are finished sideboarding now and just shuffling up. So we're going to move back down to that match where we've got Ali Eldrazi 1 game up in the mirror. Can Flynn come back, level it out and take us to a game number 3? Let's all find out together. And there's a lot on the line this weekend, as well as all, we've got 5K in prizes. That in itself, great. Add to it some regional championship invites. great. There's 2 of them, especially because players over on that side of the pond now, you can double queue for double RC. So, even if you've won one, you've still got, you might as well play the next one, try and get another RC. Double RC is great. So there's lots of chances for those players. And on top of that as well, if they get all the leaderboard points or able to take this down, they can get themselves on the NRG 2024 championship. Either get them on the leaderboard or get high enough on the leaderboard that actually go to the championship itself. And that is a 35k invite only tournament. Really hard to qualify for. Love to see it. I see so much hype about it. A lot of my friends are qualified for it. And I'm sure one of these 2 players here, Sam Farmers, would love to play in it as well.
That's where you want to go. That's what you play. I mean, that's not the only reason you play all of these events. We've got a schedule throughout the year, crossing the country, give you lots of great events to play in. But it is incredible, of course, that it leads somewhere, right? That's what's huge. Those end of the year events, we love them. That's why you can go to the website and check out the leaderboard, right? And that's what these players are playing for points on that leaderboard, which of course then does convert into perks on the tournament series as well. So, all right, looks like Ollie keeping here, Flynn going down.
Keeping. There's a lot of mulligans happen, right?
Yeah. You mentioned, I want to touch back on this. You mentioned, these players building their deck for something that they have in mind, right? Well, looking at the meta, the Nadu deck, as everyone is, of course, thinking about, it's about 20% of the field. So that's pretty high, of course, as you would expect. But you know what? That means that 4 of your 5 matches on average are not going to be against a Nadu player. So you can build your deck for whatever you want, but in Modern, you can still play against anything.
I guess in the earlier rounds, like I don't know if you've piloted, if you've played any of this Nadu deck. This Nadu deck is powerful. It's like someone I read it yesterday. Someone posted on Twitter about it. Like it's basically a Hodak without any bad matchups, though. Like this deck is powerful. So I do imagine the later on the game, the rounds go, the more we'll end up seeing it. There it is on your screen. Of course, when everyone says they want to ban the bird, I keep thinking it's Birds of Paradise. I'm like, I don't think it's done anything wrong. That poor little O1. But no, this one, this is going to be interesting. We'll see what comes on Monday. This might be the last time we ever see it on camera. Who knows? But I think we've got a mulligan down to maybe 5. Maybe it's a tricky 6 we've got here.
Yeah, tough decision here.
All right, what would you say is the best 5 cards that you could keep in your Tron opener?
It involves 3 Tron lands and 1 payoff. You don't need 5. 5 is greedy. All you need
is too much.
You need 3 cards in your Tron opener, right? You need 2 of those, and then you got to draw the other one. That's really all you need. And that's look, with the way the mulligans work, obviously over the last this change happened years ago now at this point, but it allows you to look at 7 and then put cards back on the bottom, which does help Tron a lot because you need so few cards and kind of specific cards, and not in the same way that like a traditional like combo deck might. So the mulligan's really not so damaging for Tron historically, and certainly not just going down 1 or 2 cards even in a matchup like this, and Flynn with an almost ideal start.
I was about to say, Tron famously can just mow down 2 as long as I got a lot of mana in my opening turns. I can top deck and potentially try and get there. Some decks just cannot deal with that. But this new card, Devour Destiny, really good at helping us with mulligans because we get to look at the top 4 cards of a library, put one of them back on top, exile the other 3. Both players using that as their opening start here. But Flynn starting off with Labyrinth and now 4 mana for an Eldrazi, if needs be, decides to pass the turn back and just hold up this command mana. And we're just more to start from Ali. Tron land go. I think we've got natural Tron again for Ali Eldrazi. That's not even fair. I'd be like, Judge, come on, what's going on? This. I'm getting beaten up here. Top 2 cards.
It's just a Tron is a deck that rewards you for trust, believing in yourself, as they might say, right? So many times you just tap the top of your deck, say heat check, and see what it delivers you. It's like if you're on basketball and you're on fire and you want to see if you can keep going or not. You just see if that Tron lands on top, and that's how it feels when you're playing Tron, and it just keeps serving you up Tron hand after Tron hand after Tron hand, and then you have all of your mana, and it makes that part of the game feel really, really, really easy. And that has been one of the big appeals over the years. It feels fun to have your mana and do it in a way that just goes over the top. And as you can see there, we talked about having to leave cards in. Maybe they're not ideal. It's a Trinisphere in hand that Flynn drew there, and that one just doesn't do much if your opponent's only playing on casting 7 mana spells. So has another Karn instead, though, which is obviously a much bigger payoff situation.
So Karn down before your opponent does, so you can go get liquid coating, liquid meta coating, and we know how good this can be because now this can just shut off one of these mana on the other side in the upkeep, and then next turn we can literally just start stone raining every single turn by ticking up this Karn. So now Ali's only got access to 1 mana potentially. Does have that turn 3 Tron that we've seen, the towers pulled to the front. Does also have a Passeju in hand, but no green mana to deploy it. And yeah, this is rough. This is the power of good being on the play, I think.
Yeah, and this is the power of liquid metal coating. Although I guess
Can't use it
Karn,
anymore.
yeah, Karn answering back is one of the few things you can do. I was going to say that liquid metal coating and Karn is kind of the classic combo, but I guess maybe the most classic combo people might remember with Karn is Mycosynth Lattice, which would just block you out of the game, and the game would
Not,
end. But
not
on the other hand, the game would end, right? And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
If you've ever been locked under liquid metal coating, turning your lands and artifacts, they get turned into 0/0s and die. You might just wish it was Mycosynth Lattice and it ended the game. But
okay, so
look, we talked about what kind of answers you could have if you're Ollie. This is picture perfect. Karn finding Pithing Needle, naming liquid metal coating. So even
I
if
think his
Karn
name's
goes
Karn.
away, you're safe. Or it names Karn if you feel safe about that.
Because if you don't name Karn here, you can tick up your Karn to make the liquid coating a creature and attack the other Karn, which is making me think that I would name the Karn in this situation. Yeah, it's double-sided. It means I can't use my Karn, but at this point, this start from Flynn has been so explosive. Bear in mind, this is a mode of 5, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? Ali's basically doing what needs to stop the game. Later on, as it goes, potentially we can get our own needle off the battlefield, or maybe even Flynn will deal with it for us. But I think you're right. I think it was named. And yeah, this is the line I was speaking about. Look, taking Karn down to 2 now.
Yeah, well, it keeps your land. What it does is it's going to unlock Ollie's mana next turn. Is what the hope is here, right? Because then you can your land is not turned off. You have access to a bunch of mana here, and the one ring from Flynn. Sure, I guess you have protection. That doesn't mean that much to Ollie, who just wants to spend as much mana as possible on this turn. And it looks like the answer to that is 10 mana available.
That's a lot of mana on turn 4. I've just never been that sort of gamer, you know what I mean? It's never been my play style of getting all this mana. Here comes the monument. We're going to tick that up. We're going to make it a 6/6. Now, this is an ability that Karn can turn off, so the tax of mana will happen, and the drain end of each turn will happen. And this is it's going pretty good, I would say, on Ali's side, especially on Flynn. We just drawn this Trinisphere. It does nothing, and then we drew. Was that the land we needed to make Tron?
Yeah, I didn't catch all of that, but interesting that the statue coming down second game in a row. And I was trying to think over last game how much mana it taxed out of Flynn over the course of the game. It had to have been what 10, 12 mana at a very possibly 14 to 16. And that's what Ollie has here to spend. That 10 mana was not the most efficiently spent. You just have the one card payoff, but it's not bad. Now, Flynn's got a lot of options. You obviously can't activate the ring at this point, but what you can do is turn it into a creature with Karn. But look, he's got nothing in hand either. So that matters until activating this land. So this is a really sort of, I don't want to say desperation, but that's a nice play to have available when things are not in a winning position for you if you're Flynn there to deploy that.
Well, we're seeing this is the mulligan happening right now. Okay,
Yeah,
so both players doing their thing. Board state's pretty stale, but Flynn, as you mentioned, one card in hand. It's a dead card. Ali on the other side still got a full grip and all this mana. With an active card as well. Decided maybe want us to tick it down, turn it up. I think you've got a. This tells me I've got a redundant one, or you're about to find an answer to my card / ring. We'll see what he does. There's a Trinisphere. There's the chalices in the board, exactly where we thought they would be. And Leveler is the card we're going to find. Cast this. This is going to be 8 mana.
All right. Leveler has been just we saw one Ulamon cast. We've seen 2 Levelers cast, and the Levelers have been the ones that have been more impactful thus far. It's going to shoot down Karn, and Flynn's very much up against the ropes now.
So let's think. Why do? Oh, because Ali's got all land in hand and one command, but we sacrificed
that's
our own Karn. Right? Our Karn at this minute is turning off the ring on the other side, which obviously is probably the best way Flynn has got to get back in this game. So we've kind of given him a little bit of a lifeline here to get in. Not that I'm not saying anything's great, but like, if there's a line out of it, this is the line. So, Ali respecting the fact that Karn on the other side was too important, had to get it off the battlefield. Also, adding an 8/8 to the battlefield is pretty good. And if it lives, we can also start attacking every time of it and getting all these extra triggers, potentially getting lands and rings and etc. off the battlefield. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this line pays out. Both these players clearly Tron players at this point, and aren't going to be surprised by the mirror. Chat's talking about the percentage of like Nadu this weekend. You did have a little look at all the different meta breakdown. This is like an unofficial. You looked for it quite quickly, but Nadu is clearly the favorite. But what else did you see?
Yeah, so very unofficially, we had Nadu around that 20-ish% of the field. After that, you're looking at energy. You're looking at honestly substantially less energy than Nadu, maybe 10-ish% of the field. Boros, another handful of Mardu decks, and after that, Jeskai Control becomes the most popular deck. So those are the big three, right? It's of course Nadu, energy, Jeskai, and or Boros Mardu flavors, and then you start hitting your reanimator decks, your Atraxas, and then your Karn deck variants. But your big three this weekend, of course, it's Nadu, it's energy, it's Jeskai.
I like energy. Like that's the deck I've picked up in this this Nadu meta that we're in, which is weird because I'm a Yawgmoth player and I should probably gravitate towards Nadu because it's basically a better Yawgmoth. But that's just who I am. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go with that. Karn drawn and a Haywire Might. Now, how can we utilize this to great effect over in Flynn's side? Who, of course, remember every spell is going to cost an extra 2 currently.
Yeah, and interesting. Usually you play the Trinisphere to make spells cost an extra 2.
Yeah. Well, we just went bigger. We just went for a 6 mana version.
Yeah.
It's fine. This one only drains for 1 on the end of every step.
It is an interesting tax here because Flynn, you're right. Activating that ring was a huge opportunity for him to get back into this game because he was in trouble before. But things like the Haywire Might, which would normally be a very easy answer to an opposing card on Ollie's side. One, there's multiple cards on Ollie's side that need answered. 2, it's going to get taxed, and all of a sudden you're looking at what, 4 mana, 5, whatever the. It's not cheap just to get 1 card off of the field over there.
It definitely feels more of a resource battle than I initially thought this was going to be.
Yeah, agreed.
So here comes Karn.
Very fun.
Karn's going to cost 6 mana. Instantly ticking it down and finding an ensnaring bridge. That's the Lord of the Rings variant.
Good eye on that one. I was not aware of that one.
I'm all over. Like I'm pretty good with my alternate cards. That's what I mean. When a card pops up that I don't know what the art is, I'm like, ooh, okay, what's that? But yeah, that basic forest caught me off guard, and so did that was that. But yeah, bridge on the battlefield now. So that means we can't attack with the leveler, which is good news. That means nothing can get. It's not like a protection effect, and then the trigger would happen. It just can't be turned sideways yet.
Yeah, and that's a big turn from Flynn, right? Like one rotation ago, it looked like Flynn was in trouble, and then all of a sudden is able to, deploy one creature, big creature, activate the ring,
10,
get another one, but a big command here from Ollie.
11, I think.
Big command.
We'll find out as the dice come across, but I think it's 11 if my math is right. There you go, 11. 11 0 ones that can sacrifice to add 1 mana. More importantly, we get to look at the top 11 cards and kind of decide what goes on top of our deck at this point. And
this is where the one-ofs come in really.
How about Mindslaver? Mindslaver found by Ali that's brought to the top, as well as the way to copy it. Okay, we're cooking. We're cooking, Ali.
That's a different Tron deck, Ollie. You're supposed to have blue in your deck for that.
That's the Phyrexian Manamorph as well. So we can go Mindslaver, take your turn. Yeah, so we're going to do that.
Mindslaver, you please.
Take your turn. Okay.
Oh wow, that's how you spend 10 mana historically, right there. 6 to play, 4 to activate. Take your turn.
Who had that on their bingo list today? Let me know. Oh, we can't be activated in the face of the Khan.
Oh
Khan has got extra
no!
text.
Well, that would have worked, Ollie. It you tried to fake us out as well. Didn't quite get there.
We went for the highlight moment. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Well, the game's not. I mean, that doesn't look.
It's
The
not
game is.
over.
It rather. Let me. It would have been over. I think if obviously if the Mindslaver loop lock gets going, or even just one activation in all likelihood. But in this case, it's very much not. That said, Ollie does still now have extra mana in play in addition to his creatures. And now if the Karn does ever go away, the Mindslaver suddenly becomes live. So it's going to be very powerful if it gets activated at any point. Of course, it's just that good. But what I was going to go back to was we talk about the one-ofs in the deck, and the commands are really good when you have all this mana. A command for 9 or 11. Yeah, you get all of these tokens. Okay,
That's a
so
walking blister.
what's perfect when you have those tokens? Well, it's finding the one of Forsaken Monument, put on top of your deck, draw it, swing with your tokens, and win the game out of nowhere.
Right, so we take down the Khan this turn. We found ourselves a walking ballista. Remember that bridge is at the top of the deck, and at the minute we cannot attack with that Cityscape Leveler. We do not have 8 cards in our hand from Flynn, basically at any point because we will discard on the turn, and Flynn's going to play and make sure he definitely doesn't have that many cards in his hand. Not going to activate the ring in Ali's turn, or at least before combat anyway. So just deploying the walking ballista. I think the key is keep this Khan alive at all costs.
Yeah. So keep in mind here, Metamorph, which Ali drew, could allow him to copy the leveler. However, then that is what he's going to cast. And I want to verify here, but the leveler, I believe, is a cash trigger, right?
Is a cash trigger, yeah.
Right. So you can't copy that when it comes into play.
This is the judge question. Like, because it's got to enter the battlefield to copy it, and then by the time it's entered, the cast has already happened.
Correct. It won't work.
So, yeah.
That said, you can copy. So it's good that they're asking because you actually make the choice once the card resolves, right? So if Phyrexian Metamorph resolves, and then you say, okay, what is it a copy of? And you will not get that trigger, but it's also too late to change anything at that point. So there are options for Ollie here, right? Obviously, you could hit the Pithing Needle, you could hit the One Ring, all kinds of things that
can
be
Khan,
done
right?
in this situation. You cannot hit Karn. It has to be a creature or an artifact.
Okay. So what do we call? We don't even do another monument because that's legendary. I think this is just like, obviously we did that huge Colorless command, Kozilek's command. Sorry, looked at the top 11 cards, and the 2 cards we put on top of the deck was Mindslaver and this Phyrexian Metamorph, and we obviously had a line of sequence of plays in our head, but we weren't able to do that because we forgot the Khan was on the battlefield, and it's made it really like these 2 lines, our next 2 turns, really awkward here for Ali. Now he's trying to navigate through this. How can I make this happen? This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, they're certainly trying to figure out what they want to do here. It's a tough spot because this Metamorph, you can copy a lot of stuff, but not all of it is necessarily that impactful. And that's the issue here is Ollie, even if you were able to get the leveler into the graveyard, to try to bring it back after that, it has to attack, right? So that won't do anything. He's kind of in a difficult spot here to try to find an answer easily, right? Like he's got all kinds of powerful cards, but they don't answer just the fact that he can't do anything against Karn right now. And another turn or 2 of the One Ring, and Flynn's just going to have the resources to pull away here. So this game at one point, this has been a very swingy back and forth matchup, but that ensnaring bridge went a long way here to locking up the game, the board for Flynn, allowing him to sit behind this Karn now.
Well,
so,
it's that mode of 5, right? Like I said, it was down on cards. It was that I think it comes back to that key term where Ali decided to cash in his own Karn.
Yeah,
opening up the One Ring. The One Ring's drawn so many cards that we've now got a grip for the cards, a board for the cards, and a replacement ring on the battlefield. So yeah, I think we kind of opened the door a little bit too much on that turn, and unfortunately, Ali's at the minute not finding answers to close it. It's going to have I think we've copied the Piffing Needle. So the Piffing Needle can name Walking Ballista?
One ring, maybe?
One ring, maybe? But I feel like damage is already done, but then they're going to keep looking. There's the land.
He didn't activate in response, so I'm not sure actually what we're looking at here. We'll wait on it, but
we'll see if we can get confirmation from down at the table.
It's a tough spot for Ollie, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
That said, you find one way to get Karn off the board, all of a sudden you can activate your Mind Slaver. Like, things can change very quickly here, but you are 100% at the mercy of whatever Flynn finds, and it's Haywire Might to
deal with the Piffing Needle that was originally on the liquid metal coating. Ironically, the turn that Karn's at 1, so we're all going to be doing it anyway is ticking up. So now we get to Stone Rain.
Yep.
Let's take out that mine.
So for people who are unfamiliar, the liquid metal coating can turn anything into an artifact. So that's what it does. Karn turns that artifact into a creature with power toughness equal to its CMC, which of course in the case of a land is 0, just dies. Or, as we'll put it, a Stone Rain. Much more eloquent way to say it.
That's more the card I'm used to casting is Stone Rain. I've been known to play a little bit of Ponza in my day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I cast Fulminator Mages here and there. That's kind of my jam. Top deck. It is a Devourer. That is not going to be good on this battlefield. Just a 6/6.
The first time someone told me about Ponza, I was for sure that they were just trying to get me to name a deck after what they wanted to name it. I had no idea it was a historical Magic archetype. I thought they were just trying to sell me on their deck.
I'd love to get to that point where I make a deck and I get to name it like whatever I want.
Yeah, that's you've got to name it, and then but importantly, slip through a name that will be allowed on coverage, right? That's always the
don't call it scam. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Call it,
yeah.
Can I get a deck name called the Experience or something? That'd be cool.
You go.
On brand. Replacement Karn coming down. I feel like we're just going through, turning the wheels at this point. Flynn's going to have the tools. It's got the advantage currently to close this game out. It's just going to take a few turns for that to happen. And how we go about it? Yep, as I said, with the 3 mana was cast. Here comes the Haywire Might, which is going to exile the other Piffing Needle that is on the battlefield, which now turns on the ring. I think you were correct. Either the ring or the Walking Blister, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Another land. Because it is an open deck list, this is, one is right to see what's going on the other side of the battlefield. What else have you got in that deck? What else is coming out that sideboard with your Karn Wish targets? Get as much information as needed to potentially play around it more moving forward.
Yeah, I'd say that this one's about over. Ollie, I think, probably glancing up at the clock here. Interestingly, Flynn with nothing but lands in hand, so not actually able to push in or close things out until he chooses to do something else. So we'll see.
Well, there's the monument. That's giving everything +2/+2 and making our mana more. So we've now just gained a load of 5 2/3s on the battlefield, which I suppose, how many cards are in hand for Flynn at this point? Can 2 power creatures start getting in there? Maybe not. I think we've got something to do in response.
So I was trying to figure out why Flynn, what Flynn was doing there. It looks like he chose to sink all of his mana into that Walking Ballista, and then was able to use the Walking Ballista to shoot down the tokens in response to the monument. So they don't actually get the pump, although it would have been a great one. So now we're back to sort of square one. Ensnaring Bridge, snaring down Ollie's hand with Karn. The Stone Raining is taking the land every turn. That was probably Ollie's sort of last gasp at it there, but Walking Ballista shuts that down. And I'd say we're getting pretty close now, right? You can see Ollie's lands just dwindling and dwindling.
How much mana is that over on Flynn's side? We are at the stage of the game where we are just going to keep ticking this Walking Ballista up, and this Walking Ballista is just going to keep shooting Ali until he's dead. Maybe as early as next turn. But I think Ali drew his own copy, which isn't ideal. I don't even know how that math works. Is it 3 counters? Oh, because everything taps for an extra mana because of the monument. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 comes in. That gets under Trinisphere. So we do have a 3/3 Walking Ballista, which we're in response for, and we'll activate his, make his a lot bigger. So it's up to 7 counters now. If we can get it to 18, that will be GG.
Yeah, Flynn can spend a lot more mana here, and if he chooses to spend 3 of it to shoot down Ollie's Walking Ballista, well, that's really no problem. He can do that. So I think that we will likely be off to game 3 here very soon. But you can see the really old set of modern cards here. Walking Ballista was Magic Origins, I believe, 2015 or so, and that was when the ensnaring bridge lock with it kind of that became the best win condition with ensnaring bridge, because you're seeing it. You just sit behind your ensnaring bridge, you can't be attacked, and and to turn whatever spare mana I have, I'll just jump into this Walking Ballista. And when you're Tron, you have a lot of spare mana.
Yeah, and we're seeing now that's an always dusk again, not great right now. More Stone Rain effects happening. I don't want to know how much mana that is. Roughly a gazillion mana, enough for Ali to scoop it up and take us to a game 3. Interested to see how long's. I'm being told there's 2 minutes left on the round. That's what I was going to. My next question was going to be: is how long have they got until they can, battle out in this game 3? You don't want to be starting off an 8-round tournament with a draw, because then you're in that draw bracket. You're going against control. You're getting against these long, grindy decks, and you want to be realistically. I guess you bring this deck because they think and especially how they've tailored it and what we've seen, these spicy cards. It's going to be good in against the Nadu meta. They want to be going against Nadu. They want to go against the energy decks. Saying that, no one wants to go against Nadu. Let's be honest. Even if I've got a deck that's good to get, if I've got 4 Harsh Mentors in my Boris deck, I still don't want to go up against Nadu. I still don't think I can win that game. It can be pretty crazy. But they are going to go to sideboarding a little bit more. We saw that the Trinispheres come out. We saw that the Chalices came out, and now they brought in things like Mindslaver. Arguably not great in the matchup, but it's a lot better than having a Chalice of the Void or something on these lines.
Yeah, it was a situation where if that Mindslaver had, if it resolved, it did resolve. If he'd been able to activate it, it would have won the game, right? So that certainly is doing you better than a card that's just kind of a general blank.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as taking a draw in round 1, not at all where you want to be for the reasons you mentioned, but also, right, you came to game, you've been here, you've driven to the NRG Championship Series, you are ready to play Magic all weekend long, you're ready to get going, and first round, it's a draw. It's just
well, we've got like 2 minutes plus 5 turns. Potentially there could be a winner if we can fire this off. We might see some speed Magic right now, so I'm aware that I talk very quickly. I might talk even quicker in this one as both players look at their opening 7. I imagine it's just, as long as I've got lands and spells, it's a keep on both sides. Stop the game actions. But yet again, both players turn 0 game actions. Look at my top 4. Pick one of them on top. 3 into exile. Ali's having a little look. I think we've got lands. We've got Haywire Mites. We've got Khan there if we want to go with it. And I think it was the land that was taken. And then we're just going to go Labyrinth. Put this underneath. 2 mana. Play the Brainstone. Now, this is the one I thought. This one the game would come to.
Well, this would have been. It's interesting because at various points throughout these 2 games, they've Brainstone. You're right. They can.
No, it's not Brain. That's Brainstone. Yeah. Stone Brain.
Yeah. So this is Stone Brain. So this is going to allow them to take cards out of the deck. It's a good one for sure, especially when you're able to get out ahead. I saw a Thought-Knot Seer in Flynn's hand. If you're trying to end a game quickly, Thought-Knot Seer is going to be one of your best routes to it.
The dice is out. You can see it at the bottom of your screen. This is turn 1 for Ali. Yeah, look, this is a draw. I don't even know the sequence of perfect lines that needs to happen right now for this to happen. I'm pretty sure that if the game went longer, this Stone Brain would be able to, do a lot of work, so to speak. But we're not going to have the time. Please tell me you named the One Ring. Khan maybe is the first thing you'd name.
I think it's just interesting because it's probably fairly dependent on the game state, but in this sort of early board state where your opponent has not hit 4 mana yet, and therefore you've not really had a chance to even Karn check them, right? You just get rid of it. It's the scariest card in the matchup, scariest card in the deck, and now you don't ever have to worry about it. But
I wonder if we I'm trying to think, like, we're playing this out. Maybe they're doing it for coverage. Maybe they both are fully aware that I'm in the booth and how much I enjoy casting over these big mana decks. But is there a line to victory at all here? Is the like I can't see it.
No, there's
There's no
not.
smashes. There's
The
no
important thing,
fault
Will,
not.
is that you got to see a lot of mana spent. Look, it's round 1, and you've seen hundreds of mana spent. Okay,
I have
that's a
spent
rare
so much
experience.
mana spent.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, both players here just unfortunately heading to the draw. Always something you got to keep in mind is the time considerations at the tournament. But hey, both of these players are going to. It's round 1. It's an 8-round day. If you think about it in context, if you win 7 rounds and draw 1 round, you will make the top 8. So both of while it's not necessarily where you want to start, it is by no means the end of the world. Now, this would have been a good line here,
Oh,
right? Flynn running out early Thought Knot Seers. We saw kind of how pressure mattered. Forsaken Monument's just been incredibly relevant all 3 games. Here it is getting taken by the Thought Knot as Ollie runs off the command. But yeah,
had a
I think
good
those
line
Thought Knots
though.
would have been really interesting had like you watch this matchup play out 10 times, which hey, we might over the course of the weekend. You can see, I think those choices matter because the early pressure provided by a turn 2 Thought Knot would be pretty clutch in these matchups where you're kind of playing around these turn 3, turn 4 cards.
If you look at like Ali's hand there, that wasn't bad. So it was a stone brainstone, whichever one it was. Into it could have been a Kozlex, into another Kozlex, into the monument. So we would have had an army of 2/2s. That's a good way of closing down this matchup pretty quickly, especially when you know your opponent doesn't have Khans. But
That's
we are
right.
just not going to have the time here. Maybe we need to concede a little bit sooner. Time will tell. Having a little bit of mass in. I've got an Ulamog. Can I get 2 hits off of that? It's going to be
There we
the
go.
handshake. It's going to be the ID. Kicking off the game with you know, a draw. We've been there. We've all done it. No one likes it, but it's better than a loss at the end of the day, especially in a long 8-round tournament like we are doing today here at the NRG series. So normally this is where I would go back and forth, Corbin, and I'll talk to you about that game and that match. But I feel like we saw everything in that match. We saw a million mana cast, and we need to go get that camera fixed. So we're going to step away quickly for a short break, get the camera sorted out. Me and Corbin are going to get our coffee in us, and then we'll be back for round number 2 shortly. So don't go anywhere. See you then.